Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you. As usual, my friends, we're going to have a great show for you. But before I even get started, I want to talk about something that I said yesterday that I may want to take sort of some of it back after one of our listeners here, actually, Michael Rudnin, sent a link to I can't remember his name. Rudnin put the name in there of the young man who has a he has a video show on YouTube. And he had a different take on about how I attacked Woodward for holding a secret and not saving lives by reporting it earlier. He has a take. I am not fully enthralled with his take, but I think it has to give us pause because these issues we got to take different tacks with. Here's the issue. I thought that Woodward, after interviewing the president and after finding out that the president knew that the coronavirus was actually airborne, actually when he knew that both the young and the old got it, when he knew all those things and he made believe that the coronavirus was just fine, that maybe we should just leave it alone. And I think that given that Woodward got the information, yesterday what I told you guys is, well, he's complicit. And yes, he remains complicit in that he knew it, right? And I don't know exactly how else he could have solved the issue, solved the problem. But my concern was, hey, people are dying because right now the information is that the president knows it is airborne. And what this young man is also saying, it's actually true. Many other people knew that it was airborne. So therefore, if he had just released that information there, the impact, given that there would not have been all these dead people, the impact of him coming out early and saying, hey, the president knows that this stuff causes death, would have been shooed off and maybe not gotten the bang to really effect change as it is coming out now. Unfortunately, it means 100 and something thousand people paid with their lives for the lie of the president. Now, the truth of the matter is that if the lie never came to fruition, that 1 point something million people, or that 100 and something thousand people that died unnecessarily would probably have become 1.6 million people, given that if all these truths about President Trump's lies didn't come to fruition, come out into the light, he likely could have gotten reelected. And given reelected, keeping the same processes that he follows, gotten a hell of a lot more people killed, not only from the coronavirus, from just being an incompetent president. So there are a lot of different ways to look at that. So I'm saying I'm sort of giving it a measured view that maybe we don't need to hold Woodward in as high a disregard as I would otherwise. So, I think right now we have to give what that other person said some consideration. Anyway, what is the show going to be about today? Today's show is titled, and we have two parts again. Today's show is titled, Trump Cult May Not Be His at All. Charlotte Dennett on Oil and War, etc. That's a good interview I had with the author of a book that I think it's well worth the read. So what you're saying is Fauci, etc., knew how bad it was as well. I think Fauci has always known how bad it was. Now, and I think Fauci has always told us how bad it was. He never said it's airborne, because I don't think when Donald Trump said it's airborne, he probably heard it from the Chinese that it's likely airborne. So, I mean, Fauci, I think for the most part, was doing his job in order to stay employed and still be able to do a public service. I think Fauci is playing it close to the line because he knows that he could be gone tomorrow. And I don't think Fauci wants to be gone tomorrow. I think Fauci wants to remain so that he can do his public service, because he knows he's working for a lunatic. He knows he's working for an evil person. I mean, I want to read something that I put on my Facebook page, and then I'm going to show that video. But I want to read something that I put on my Facebook page that got some attention yesterday. And I wrote, because it has to do with the Trump supporters, and that is the first video that I'm going to show you as well. So what I wrote is, let's see if I can find it now. I think I can find it. I said, Trump admits that COVID-19 is airborne. He admits that it affects the young and the old. He claims that he did not tell Americans the truth because he did not want to create a panic. Of course, there was no panic in South Korea or Germany or Canada. Even if we took him at his word, even though the most gullible would, what does it say about rather, let me repeat that. Even if we took him at his word, even though the most gullible would, what does it say about a person who knows what he knew, still discourage? 1, wearing masks. 2, discourage social distancing is what I should put. And 3, continue to promote rallies. What does it say about a person that does that? Even as he lost his friend, Mr. 999, former presidential candidate Herman Cain, after he attended the Tulsa rally maskless, he reverted to playing Russian roulette with Americans and specifically his followers. Even as he exposed the rallies, continue. Even as we expose him, the rallies continue. Even as he lost his friend. If this virus could be contained to those who have the desire to follow Trump's lead, some would be happy to have it up to natural selection to take care of business. Let natural selection take care of business. Unfortunately, the virus does not distinguish between the responsible and irresponsible person. It doesn't know. So it just jumped to the next host. It just jumps to the next person. If this virus could be contained, it would be different, but it cannot. I hold Trump and his cabal of indoctrinators responsible for the dead, the permanently maimed, and those who will lose their wealth to this virus. I just hope my brothers and sisters twisting themselves into pretzels to justify following and voting for this bastion of evil will wake up before it's too late. Then I have a postscript. Note, as Trump wants his followers to be in close contact as they adore him, as if he were their religious master, he keeps his distance from them. While he wants testing on the rest of us reduced, he is tested, and all those in proximity to him are tested constantly. November 3rd cannot come to us fast enough. Folks, if you're just joining us, please do remember, I ask you so kindly, please go ahead and share this program. This is how we're going to get info that generally is disregarded, generally is left alone out there. So I ask you so kindly to please share this on your wall, share this on your Twitter, share this on your Tumblr, share this everywhere you can, because that is how we get the information out. Okay, I want to play this video for you because this should be enlightening. Check this out. I watched CNN, Jim Acosta's interview with 3 of Trump's supporters about wearing the masks, and I'm going to play it now, and then I'm going to tell you what shocked me the most about it, because I think we're missing something with the Trump supporter, quote unquote, the Trump supporter. I want to see if you think and see it the same way that I do, but check this out.
After the Woodward bombshells, the president held a rally in Michigan, no social distancing, few masks. Our Jim Acosta caught up with some of the attendees. Listen to this.
Why are you guys not wearing masks?
I have one with me. It's my prerogative.
But why not wear one to stay safe?
I have a hard time understanding people when they talk, so that's why I don't wear it.
But you can hear me right now?
I can hear you.
Sure. Tell me, why are you not wearing your mask?
Because there's no COVID. It's a fake pandemic created to destroy the United States of America.
But the president said to Bob Woodward that there is a virus, the coronavirus, and that it is deadly.
That's his opinion. The truth is that the CDC said there's only less than 10,000 people died from COVID. The other 190,000 have 2.6 or 2.8 other mortalities.
Does it worry you guys at all to be in this crowded space with all these?
I'm not afraid. The good Lord takes care of me. If I die, I die. We got to get this country moving. What can you do? Wear masks and stay inside for another year? Huh? Where'll that get us?
Okay.
Did you see the shock face? Did you see the solemnity, or I don't even know what word to use, with the panelists? They were like, I cannot believe these people. I mean, after all, didn't Cain die? I mean, I tell you what though. Let me tell you what I think is the most shocking part of this video. The most shocking part of that set of interview was the second guy. The second guy said, after Acosta wanted to say, listen, but your master believes, or your master back in February says that the coronavirus is real and that it is really bad, and that the reason he played it down is because he didn't want to get you panicked. And that guy in the middle, he didn't care. He said, that's the president's opinion, but we will stay with the fantasy of the conspiracy theories. What this is telling me is Donald Trump is not really the leader of this movement, the leader of, let's say, the people who believe these things. Donald Trump is simply riding the wave. So whereas we look at Donald Trump as the leader of the big evil that's initiating all this stuff, the reality is there is a movement in the back that found itself the master sycophant that is Donald Trump as the promoter, as the leader of the movement in high places. I mean, it is something that I hadn't thought about before until I really listened to what that guy had to say, how he dismissed the president for the conspiracy theory. In other words, the conspiracy theory is put out by the dubious folks in the back who know nothing, or rather, who are actually running things. And Donald Trump is just riding the wave. Think about that. I hope I was clear there. And that is something that I'm wondering. Look, Donald Trump is not very smart. He doesn't have a lot upstairs, but he also can be used. And I think everybody's using Donald Trump. Donald Trump thinks he's leading the ship, right? But I think the corporatocracy is leading him so that they can cut a piece of that mountain that they couldn't cut under Obama or even under Bush. They are going to use them to open up areas to drill that they couldn't drill before. They're going to use him for allowing areas to be in the far. I mean, they're using him for a lot of things while he gives his rhetoric and his speeches, etc., etc., etc. So I think I sit down and I'm like, who is leading who? And under the Trump world, that in that other alternate state of reality, we find that there are all these stories that come about. And if we take a look at how Trump operates, he's always looking at his Twitter feed. He's always talking about listening to Sean Hannity, always talking about listening to all these other personalities, right? The question really has to be, is he really leading? Okay, Lawrence Sim. In other words, dangerous, dirty Donald is a useful idiot. I don't use those words generally speaking, but I'm meaning on my show, but I'm using it in respect to what Lawrence just said. And that is what, it's amazing. A lot of these guys on TV have called him an asset, right? In other words, a Russian asset. I think that is equivalent to the same thing that you're saying there. So yes, I think he is useful. He has the biggest platform. And when these conspiracy guys who are going to profit from these conspiracies have something to put out there, they just put it onto the Twitter feed. Donald Trump picks it up and yoo-hoo! Everything gets out there that needs to get out there, and they clean up. Have you noticed how these guys are selling these, not only the guns, and they're selling the, what you call those things, MREs, the ready-to-eat meals and all that kind of stuff? Meals ready to eat, I think is what it stands for. Check that out. Because again, I am starting to believe that he is much less in charge than we may actually believe. That doesn't make him any less dangerous. That doesn't make him any less any less evil. It still means he's the tool, he's a conduit that's doing these things. Now, what we have to do is get this to our brothers and sisters, both on the left and the right. Right? Because we're going to look. I'm an eternal optimist. I know for a fact that most people want progressive policies. The values that they have are progressive. I know that. And in knowing that, then I know most people, I don't care whether they call themselves Republicans, anarchists, whatever they want to call themselves, as long as they're voting in the interest of most of us. That's all we want. So let's look at it that way. And, take it from there. Anyway, I have a special guest today, and then we'll talk on the other side. But before we talk, I want to remind all my good brothers and sisters to please support the program by going ahead and doing what? Getting our book. The book is called It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And here is the link to the book. You can go ahead and get the book right there. I put the link in there. And please, if you're so kind, if you're on YouTube, you can support us in one of two ways. You can either join by giving us a cup of coffee every so often, if you just go ahead and click that join button if you are on YouTube, or you can give us a super chat by hitting that $sign on YouTube, and there you go, one or the other. And of course, YouTube just opened our merchant racks. All our t-shirts and stuff are right there. If you're on YouTube, you can see our t-shirts, all that good stuff that we have in our stuff. Anyway, you can, but most importantly, we also need you on our Patreon. Thank you very much, YouTube fam. Yes, Tank28. I know you're here on YouTube. And become a member, Tank28. Become a member. Okay. Let's see. If you go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/PATREON, you will also support us. You'll give us the necessary revenue stream to continue doing what we do to inform. And likewise, if you go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, you can support us however you wish to. And, of course, our store at politicsdoneright.com/store. And, of course, we've just established a YouTube store as well. We're trying to get all different types of streams of revenue to keep this stuff going. And that's what we intend to do, because we are not going to be just needed to elect a president that replaces Donald Trump. We're going to need to be here to force whoever is elected to do what is right for us all. And that's why I also want you to get that book. It's worth it, because I want the communication not among the choir. I want this communication to occur with everybody. I want us all to talk together, because ultimately we'll reach that right point. Okay, Charlotte Dennett. Let's go to Charlotte Dennett, and we'll come back on the other side. Welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being here with us. I have a special guest for you today. Charlotte Dennett is the Beirut-born daughter of America's first master spy in the Middle East, Daniel Bennett. She is an investigative reporter and the author of The Crash of Flight 3804. Charlotte believes her father would roll in his grave over Trump's uniquely dangerous Middle East policies, which have sowed chaos even while he claims to be bringing the peace of the century to this embattled region. Charlotte, Dennett, welcome to Politics Done Right.
Great to talk to you, Alberto.
Well, look, let me tell you, first of all, when I got your information, it was like manna from heaven, assuming that you are biblical. It was whatever for whatever religion you are or lack thereof. Anyhow, how are you doing today?
I'm fine.
Great.
Pretty good.
Hey, let me ask you something first. Tell me a little bit about, and this interview is about you, but I want to sort of get the spy thing out of the way, because as soon as you say spy, everybody that's listening to the program, that's the first thing they key on. So tell us a little bit about your spying father.
Okay. When I, oh, that's all right. Saying my internet connection is unstable. When I was born in Beirut, and that was way back in January 1947, my father was America's only master spy in the Middle East. He was working for the Central Intelligence Group, which was the immediate predecessor to the CIA. The CIA was formed just a few months after his death, but he had sort of similar training in counterintelligence. And that meant that his job was to spy on other spies. That's sort of the highest level of intelligence, and it's actually quite a dangerous job. But at any rate, so he was stationed in Beirut, but he covered most all of the Middle East. And at the time, America was emerging as a major power in the world because of its exclusive concession with Saudi Arabian oil. It totally advanced America on the world stage.
Now, tell us a little bit about, before I get into some other things I want to talk about, tell me a little bit about the tenet of the crash of Flight 804. Give me the big picture of this new book, because I think that is where we're going to want to centralize.
Okay, well, I decided to title the book on the crash because in a way it was like a microcosm of the great game for oil that was just really taking off after World War II, where all these great powers were competing against each other, and I mean former allies.
Right.
Competing against each other to get the oil of the Middle East. So this was the crash that occurred in March 47, killed my father. A total of 6 Americans were on board.
Were they all spies?
Well, no, they were not all spies. There were enlisted men. The petroleum attaché, who had been based in Cairo, was on the plane. And there was a expert in communications equipment, and he was with the Central Intelligence Group as well. So I would say there were 2 spies. There was a civilian petroleum attaché, and then there were enlisted men on the plane, a radio expert, pilot, and assistant pilot. And they were coming from Saudi Arabia. My father's last mission was to determine the route of the Trans-Arabian pipeline that was carrying oil from on the eastern side of the Saudi peninsula, across the peninsula, to a possible terminal point on the Mediterranean Sea. And the 2 likely projected terminal points were either Haifa, Palestine, or Lebanon, Sidon, Lebanon. And to me, when I was first investigating my father's death years later, when I had become a journalist, this really attracted my attention, to think that my father was involved in something that had to do with Palestine. It was just before the formation of the State of Israel.
Israel, right.
Yeah, and Saudi oil is involved. And then I found the New York Times article that was written 2 weeks before the crash, and it put this pipeline, which was called TAP line, the Trans-Arabian Pipeline, in a much larger geopolitical context, and essentially said this was the focus of intense international interest, because it was sort of penetrating an area that used to be totally controlled by the British and somewhat to a lesser degree the French, who controlled Lebanon, where my father was posted. So I very soon learned that this was a big story.
So
That's how it all started.
yeah, I think the tenet of much of what you talk about is the influence of oil in our geopolitics, and to put it bluntly, in our politics and wars in general.
Yeah, I mean, that's the conclusion that I came to. Now, mind you, I've been doing this investigation for decades. I started by investigating, the Trans-Arabian Pipeline and what was behind that. And then as we got into the 2000s, and, the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and all the endless wars that followed 9/11, I began to see if there was a oil or a pipeline connection. And what I found out is that all your major conflicts over there have had to do with struggle for oil. It's really quite
It is
astonishing.
amazing
Yeah,
because
and
you
it does.
go ahead.
I'm
I'm sorry.
sorry. Well, it doesn't often get reported. You get bits and pieces, and I think that the American people have a general sense that it's probably about oil. But what my book does is it really goes into the details and shows the context and documents how oil and struggle for pipeline routes plays a major force, because oil is useless if it's just sitting in the ground, right?
Right.
So you have to distribute it. So there are two ways. One is by tanker, another is by pipeline. And if you're going to do it by pipeline, which can be more economical, then you have to cross territory. And I had come to the conclusion that my father's job was to make Lebanon safe for the pipeline. And Lebanon has many political factions in it. So this was a huge job for him to sort of keep the peace, to make sure that all these different, I mean, there were, Shiites, Sunnis, Christians, Druze, to make sure that they were going to be pro-American. That was basically what his job was, and he was very skilled at it because he was an Islamic scholar.
You know what always interests me? I mean, I think America knew. We all. Well, I tell you what. Beforehand, tell me about this energy corridor, this pipe, this energy corridor that you speak about.
Yeah. Actually, it's too bad I don't have the maps up here. I could have shown you some maps. They're in the book. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You've got.
You can explain it, because you're using east-west, and with the starting point on the Saudi Arabia Peninsula, I think it's pretty, we can pretty much infer.
I was just going to see if I could. Yeah, look, I'm going to show this, and then if people want to get the book, they can see the map, okay?
Right.
All right, now you will see those lines. Those are pipelines. You see the dotted line there?
Right.
That
Right.
is the projected route of the Trans-Arabian Pipeline. And then there are two solid lines up above it, two branches of the Iraq Petroleum Pipeline. And it split in two. One went to Haifa, Palestine, and the other went to Syria. And these are built in the 30s.
Right.
All right, now you'll see the Eastern Mediterranean there. The Eastern Mediterranean is the corridor that I talk about, because nowadays the Middle East conflict is further complicated because they've discovered huge oil and gas reserves off the shore of the Mediterranean. And that means that you've got Israel vying with Gaza,
Turkey.
with Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey. They're all making oil and gas grabs, and it's very volatile right now.
Now, is that international waters?
Well, closer to the land, they're staking their claims, so
Okay.
it's not international waters. And
Do
The
off kind of off subject because America like to hold a 200-mile territorial, or 200-mile commercial land grab pretty much in the sea. Is that the same with these foreign countries? Do they hold 200 miles across, 12 miles? What's the law?
well, I can't answer that.
Okay.
All I know is that there have been disputed claims, and you can see how it is. How do you draw a line separating um the offshore territory of Israel from Gaza? And one of the things that I show is the Gaza's laid claim, and the Israelis were determined that the Palestinians would not have this, and that accounts for the two massive Israeli attacks on Gaza and on Gaza in 2009 and 2014. And there have been disputes with Lebanon. And of course, Syria. One of the things I show that Israel had hoped to build an energy corridor along the entire Eastern Mediterranean, to ship its offshore oil and gas so it would go up to Europe. And there were two countries that were in the way of laying these pipelines, and they were Lebanon to the immediate north of Israel and Syria. They were in the way, and as well, you can draw your own conclusions. Ask me some questions.
No, well, actually, I think I figured out. In effect, I think that is one of your claims as far as Donald Trump as to why he went back into Syria, right?
Donald Trump.
Because you actually state that he made a whole lot of Middle Eastern blunders, and he continues to make Middle Eastern blunders.
Oh yeah, and so what? I mean, blunders. Here's the thing about Trump. Most of the time we don't believe anything he says, but sometimes he makes really stupid, and I would say inartful comments that most leaders would not make. So the really stupid comment he made was that when he originally said he was going to draw American troops out of Syria, because this is a big thing, I'm going to withdraw troops. Then he got some pressure, and so then he had to redeploy them, and he said we have to protect our oil.
Oil, exactly.
There's oil. There's also oil in eastern Syria, and what's happened is that the U.S. has just occupied it. It's not American oil, it's Syrian oil. And so you've got a very tense situation right there with American troops having to move into those oil areas, and the Syrians with their Russian backers saying that, you shouldn't be there. You're violating international law. There are a lot of standoffs going on right now, and the reason is they realize that just one spark could just set the whole region up in flames.
And all of this,
that's what they're all worried about it. It looks like that background to your studio there. I mean, I'm getting more and more worried the closer we get to the elections, because I mean, even Michael Cohen, his disloyal former fixer who's come out with a book, has said one of his fears is that Trump might start a war to stay in power.
The thing about it, though, is, let me tell you, all those folks that have the fear of Donald Trump staying if he loses and all that, I don't have a fear of that. I mean, I think he's going to have his sycophants with him, whether he's president or not, whether he starts a war or not. I think you're probably right. He may try to start a war. He may try to do a whole lot of things, but Americans are so set in their ways right now. I think the positioning in the election is fixed. Just my opinion, but that said, I am more interested in what you're saying, because what you're saying has little to do with Donald Trump and everything to do with America's corporatocracy and the controlling nature of oil in this country. So I mean, whether it's Biden or Trump, I don't know that America's oil policy changes. Am I correct or not? You've been writing on this for decades.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. I mean, I've been emphasizing Trump right now because he's taken us to the brink of war so many times, and then just step back. And you're absolutely right. I mean, oil policy has been going on for 7 decades
Yeah,
in
irrespective
influencing
of
foreign policy.
party.
Oh, of course. I mean, let's look at George W. Bush. We all know now that they came up with a fake pretext to invade Iraq, and that was the weapons of mass destruction. And I might elaborate just a little bit on that. That one of the goals was that Israel wanted to reopen one of those pipelines that I showed you on the map. It had been closed since 1948 when the Iraqis opposed shipping oil to this new state of Israel. So Netanyahu, when he was finance minister, I'll try to get us back up again.
You're up.
Oh, I'm up. I don't see me.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I can see you clearly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll try to find me. But at any rate, when oh, now I've lost my train of thought.
Well, we're talking about when was Netanyahu?
Netanyahu, when he was finance minister, he wanted to reopen that pipeline so that Iraqi oil could flow to Israel because
Right.
it was energy starved. And so the whole plan was to get this exile named Ahmed Shalabi to
I remember
become
him.
president. He was to take over from Saddam Hussein, who would be overthrown, and then he would allow the oil to flow to Israel. So it was like the way Netanyahu boasted. He said, "This isn't a pipe dream. This is really going to happen." There was just one problem, and that is that Shalabi was the author of the weapons of mass destruction fiction. So that plan blew apart, okay? It didn't happen, and it still hasn't happened, but I suspect they want it. But at any rate, this was under Bush. And Bush, who, in my view, was in the minor leagues, he was a small oil man when he became president, and my theory is that he tended to represent independents that were not as powerful as the majors like Chevron, ExxonMobil, BP. They wanted in, and they were plotting to get into Iraq long before 9/11. So they finally did it, but on a false pretext. And then there's the war in Afghanistan too. And I point out that, many people paint this as the good war. It was necessary to go after Osama bin Laden, who was the alleged mastermind behind 9/11. But as my book shows, there was another oil link to that. So when you're saying it's not just Trump, you're right. It's not just Trump. It's
Well,
powerful
yeah.
people.
Yeah, and even this good war that you're talking about, Afghanistan, and where you may give it a notion that there's an oil component, I'm going to give you additional notions. There's an oil component. There is a rare earth component. There's a whole lot of components to Afghanistan that Americans, the average American person doesn't know why their kids are dying for. So I mean,
Yeah.
So what I love about you're sort of, in my opinion, the counter argument to everything that we have stated by our, by even the mainstream media. That's why earlier when we came onto the conversation, I said, oh, there's a lot that you have to say that many won't necessarily want to hear. Many will want to run from, because it brings some sanity to what's really happening in your respect, from the oil, from the oil influence in our national politics and geopolitics in general.
Yeah, well, let me just say about Afghanistan, and I've got another map in the book that shows Afghanistan, and the intention there was to run a pipeline from Kazakhstan, which borders the Caspian Sea.
Mm-hmm.
through Afghanistan, through Pakistan to India. It was ultimately destined for an Enron natural gas plant in India. But anyway, its name was TAPI, named after these four countries, right? And after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, all of those countries, those former Soviet republics, had become independent, and there was a huge oil rush there because it was known the Caspian Sea had a lot of oil and gas. And so there were two companies that were vying for building this pipeline. One of them was American, called Unocal, and the other was named Britus, which was, I believe, Argentinian or Brazilian? Argentinian. Yeah. And they competed, and I document this in the book, and ultimately Unocal won out. Now, Unocal, its owner, had to figure out, how am I going to protect the pipeline? And so he initially called on the Taliban. And the reason that he called on the Taliban was because among all the many warring factions in Afghanistan, they were the best, supposedly. They were the best warriors, and thus most suited to protect the pipeline route. And then a little bit before 9/11, that relationship went sour. Actually, it went sour right after 9/11. Because the U.S. insisted that the Taliban turn over Osama bin Laden. And the Taliban said, we'll turn him over if you can prove that he had anything to do with 9/11. And there was no proof then. And so the relationship broke down. And then because of the Taliban's resistance to the U.S. demands, the U.S. Bush sent in the troops. And as my map shows, where were the troops and where were the military bases set up? They were all along the route of the projected pipeline, which has still not been built because there's so much conflict in the area.
That is amazing how much oil again, like I said, one of the reasons I wanted you on is just so that our audience can see firsthand that no matter what you hear, backing up, talking about TAPI, look at the countries that comprise TAPI. These countries are ideologically, are not ideologically kind to each other, if you will. But business interests override everything. A pipeline is to be built between a Muslim country, a Hindu, Sikh country, as well as a Christian country, and otherwise where the folks don't get along, but the pipeline is going to get built, and we have what we would otherwise call terrorists protecting all of that. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, and that's another amazing thing that I found out, that more often than not, the oil powers will rely on jihadist terrorist groups to advance their interests. For instance, in Yemen, now the war in Yemen, there's a pipeline connection to that war too. And briefly, the Saudis were looking for a pipeline route that would take their oil straight down to the bottom of the Saudi peninsula and avoid the two incredible choke points on either side of Saudi Arabia. One of them is the Strait of Hormuz, which borders Iran and Saudi Arabia. It's a tiny little narrow way if you look on a map, and that's where major oil tankers go. And the other one is the Bab al-Mandeb Strait on the other side. And so what the Saudis decided is, if Iran chooses to close off the Strait of Hormuz, we got to find a way to get our oil out. So we're going to build this pipeline down through southern Yemen to a port in southern Yemen. And who did they use to protect that pipeline route? Al-Qaeda. Hello?
It is amazing, isn't it? And those are most of the things Americans don't understand. So we send our kids to die to solve these different spats between people that today they're friendly with each other. tomorrow they are paid to do certain things, and the other day they may be having caviar and cocktails elsewhere. Look
You
here.
know,
Uh, I want to recommend your book to all our listeners, but beforehand, I'd like you to give me a closer and tell me something that you wish I had asked you that I didn't. But the basic tenet of this is how oil runs everything to this day. And one of the real reasons why the Green New Deal isn't about, oh, that is going to zap things or that is going to hurt the economy. What it really means is that's going to hurt the oil people. Go ahead, please.
well, look, there are a lot of Americans that are catching on, including vets groups, by the way. At the time I was finishing my book, I found out, I saw them on TV. These were representatives of two vets groups. One is called Vote Vets.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to be the more progressive group. And the other one is Concerned Veterans of America, I believe, which is more conservative.
Conservative, and even there, yeah.
And they were on TV. I think they were on CNN, and they had come to the conclusion that they did not want their soldiers to be posted overseas to these endless wars without a formal authorization from Congress, and they wanted to know why they were being sent. So they have definitely become wise to what these wars are about, I suspect, because the wars have been fought for lives so often, and what an awful thought to be sending our young men and women over there to fight for oil companies. And by the way, I should say it's not just for profits. I want to add one other thing here. And this is often overlooked when we talk about oil wars. It's the fact is that back in 1911, when Winston Churchill was First Lord of the Admiralty, and that means he controlled the British Navy, he had to make a decision to convert the British Navy from coal as its fuel to oil. Britain had lots of coal, it didn't have any oil. And when he made this decision, and he made it on the basis that oil was more efficient, it made the boats move faster, and it was more economical, he predicted we have to fight on a sea of oil, on a sea of troubles. I'm sorry, that's what he said. The prize of World War I was the oil of Iraq, which the British occupied. And that's why you see those two pipelines that were built during the 30s that ran, one to Haifa, Palestine, and the other to northern Lebanon.
So you're also talking about survival. The crash of Flight 3804, a lost spy, a daughter's quest, and the deadly politics of the great game for oil. Charlotte Dennett, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Great to talk to you. Thank you, Alberto.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed that conversation. Somebody wanted to call in. Tank, did you want to call in, my brother? If you take a look at the screen, you can see the telephone number 346-248-7799, ID 254-600-991. And what I'm going to do, just to make life easier for you, I'll put it in. And you don't even have to call by phone. You can actually do it from your computer. If you do it from your computer, I can actually see your MAGA hat. Ha-ha! Anyhow, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me go ahead and take a look at my comments or let me welcome all my brothers and sisters that are with us, both who are Republicans or Democrats or independents or progressives or conservatives. We love everybody here. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. AVQ. Bridge MCP. Dimitri OG, ¿cómo estás, mi amigo? Lawrence Sims. And of course, we have, continue. Norman Reynolds, mi hermano caribeño, que vas volver latino. Dimitri OG, me estás llamando estúpido. Did you call me that? For real, Dimitri? I am hurt. Okay, let's see. Let's continue it. Lawrence Sims, Tank 28. Tank 28, you said you wanted to call in, brother. Call in, Tank 28. Our entire family is waiting to hear from my good young Tank 28. Call in, brother. All right, let's see who else is here. Para ver, ¿quién más? I saw another one. I saw some from Bruce Pollard. Welcome aboard, Bruce. Joe 197301. What's up? I like that. What's up? You remember when that was popular, guys? What's up? I can still say it. I remember my younger days. Masticator, you are back. My favorite right winger. He's back after being away for a long, or not putting himself in the chat for a long time, and he's still calling me the activist, journalist, propagandist Egberto. You know, I still love you, Masticator. I still love you, and thank you for being here with us. Let's see who else is here. Sue Rose from Periscope. Welcome aboard, Sue Rose. Sue Rose says, hernia petroleum mesh implants. Okay, I will get to that later. Who else is here? Bridge, I got you. Tank 28, peace in the Middle East. Yeah, we want peace in the Middle East. We definitely do. We definitely do. Michael Rudnin, I'm still going through our list. I'm still at Troy Astro, welcome aboard. If I miss you, just go do a Nanette Bird Smith, welcome aboard. If I miss you, just go ahead and throw it. Carmen Halagahu. Carmen Alagahu. Welcome aboard, Carmen. And let's see. And okay, Tank is going to try to keep doing the what's up. Hey, folks, don't remember, please go ahead and get my book. Please get my book. You'll be doing two things. You'll be enlightening yourselves. I promise you, I have some great stories in there that when you read them, you're going to say, man, I never thought about it that way. I never thought about it that way. So go ahead and get the book. I just put the link in there. It's at Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to politicsandright.com/store and pick up a copy as well as you can pick up our copies of As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, and as well my Lose Weight and Be Fit. I lost weight and kept it off using the way I did it, and I'm pretty sure you'll do it your way and get it done. And our cups, all that kind of stuff we got. If you're on YouTube, give us a super chat, or you can just go ahead and join. I would love for you to join YouTube. It's just giving your host a cup of coffee. I mean, it's pretty cool. Anyhow, let me go ahead. Carmen Alagahu says, thank you. Let's go ahead and Tank 28 says, what's up? All right, let's see. Michael Rudnin says, Tank says guns, oil, and drugs. Yes, that's what life has turned out to be. Bruce says, slimy gold. I can figure that out. Tank 28 says, I can't at work. I'm sorry, Egberto, my bad. I keep the MAGA hat at home. Hey, I want to see you in the MAGA hat the next time. Thank you, AVQ News supporter. Awesome, great. Hey, I want to see your MAGA hat. So that I tell you what I want you to do for me, Tank 28. Take a picture of yourself with your MAGA hat on and put, I support politics done right, okay? Do that for me, and then I'm going to put it for everybody to see, and make sure I'm be smiling when you send me that. Send it to info@politicsdoneright.com, info@politicsdoneright.com, and then we'll talk about it. You didn't notice. Oh, you know what, man? I didn't even see that, Michael Rudnin. Michael Rudnin says, hey, dummy, you didn't notice. Guns, oil, and drugs equal God. Rudnin, you're too damn smart, okay? All right, that's a good one, though, Rudnin. I love that. Okay, Carmen says, how does dollar peg to oil play in this whole scenario? Oh, I wish I'd seen that before. But the deal with the dollar and oil, right now the oil is pegged to the dollar. Many times they've tried to peg it to something else, right? But since we have been one of the largest importers of it, it is hard to do. Hey, thank you for being a member, Carmen Alagalu. She just became a member. Who else is going to become a member on Politics Done Right YouTube page? Just click that join button and become a member. Muchísimas gracias, Carmen, assuming that their name is Spanish. If it's Carmen, it's English or otherwise as well. We really appreciate all of you. He's got it backwards. Woof. Hey, Bruce, what does woof mean, man? You know, we're going to have to, in Spanish, we have to say, mira, tenemos que andar con la ola, hombre. Tenemos que andar con la ola. Okay, let me see. I got some more minutes that I can keep reading your stuff. But anyway, as far as being pegged to the dollar, right now it's going to remain pegged to the dollar. Oh, great. We just received our 100th message, which means our restreamer loves it. So it says, Egberto, go ahead and tweet it. Okay, restream, I just tweeted it. Now, let's see what else is here. Coming down. AVQ said, I had an eye-opening moment when I saw footage and images of our troops protecting Afghani poppy fields as if the war was for controlling heroin distribution. Man, you don't know about Afghanistan. Believe it or you have to think about it. Why would we spend all that money protecting Afghanistan, a barren land? Whenever they say we fight them over there so they don't fight them over here, does that really had that ever really made sense to you? You see, it never made any sense to me because I could line our borders with more equipment than I can having them in Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and all over the Middle East. If we kept all those people in America, we wouldn't have to worry about them. We get them over there so they don't come over here because they won't come over here because we're so well protected. We've been fooled and screwed for so long that we start to build. Rudnan is a smart guy again. Exactly, Rudnan. It's the rare earths. A lot of people have not gotten the message yet. It's the rare earth and ensuring that the rare earths do not fall under the command of Russia or any other country. You know what I have always said? I have the damn smartest followers, the damn smartest watchers, the damn smartest of everything here. Now, what we have to do is spread your smartness around. Just like how Rudnan yesterday said, hey, maybe we need to take a second look at Woodward. That's why I like the interaction between what we talk about here, because it's not just one person speaking to you. It's us having a discussion. If you go into our comment section, you can also see people having conversations. And believe it, we all learn from listening to what other people have to say. That is how, and that's why I wrote the book as well, right? Because I'm saying there are ways you can communicate with even the craziest right-winger that you may think. Because there's something out of that conversation that you can actually learn from. And I have learned a lot. And my expectation is by having the respect to learn, others would have by having the respect to learn from others, others would have that respect to learn from me, from you, from everybody else. That's what it's all about. So folks, go get my book because it's really, really worth it. We talk a whole lot about issues like that. But most importantly as well, we talk about how things work. How economies, it's not as detailed with the economy as class warfare, but it's more, it's a lot more readable, even though Class Warfare, the book that I wrote, as I see it, is also easy to understand. The geologists were in Afghanistan almost immediately after we first invaded. Carmen, you got that right. It's amazing, isn't it? And it is amazing that that's the case. Okay, I'm going to be shutting this baby down right now. I got to shut her down. But please do remember, there's all these ways to support us. So support us at politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Support us at politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Support us at politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Or do what Carmen just did. Carmen, thank you so kindly for becoming a member at YouTube. Just hit that join button like Carmen did and join us. Let's keep this thing rolling. I love you all. Please come back on Monday. I keep getting those blog posts out. If you want to be on our newsletter, just go to politicsdoneright.com and subscribe to our newsletter. I send out a newsletter every day. Every single day I send out a newsletter with 3 of our most prominent blogs that I've written for that day with videos and all of that kind of stuff. Keep it fresh every day. It's a lot of work, but you know what? If you guys are going to be subscribing to a Politics Done Right, that's what I owe to every single one of you. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Hey, I missed it. Let me try it one more time. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.